Today, we're diving into a proposed U.S. sanctions bill that could seriously shake up global trade. We're talking about a potential 500% threat, and it seems to be aimed right at India. Okay, let's get into it.
Yeah, 500%. Just let that number sink in for a second. That is not a typo. This is the tariff the United States is potentially going to hit one of its major trading partners with. So this is the big question, right? Could the U.S. really go through with a tariff this massive just because India is buying Russian oil? It sounds pretty extreme, but things are definitely in motion. Let's break down what's actually happening. Okay, first things first, we need to understand the tool that makes this threat possible. Let's decode the sanctions bill.
So the official name is the Sanctioning of Russia Act 2025. And its purpose? Well, it's pretty blunt. It gives the U.S. president the power to punish any country that buys Russian energy. We're talking oil, gas, the whole shebang, even uranium. It's basically an economic weapon designed to choke off the money flowing to Moscow.
And you don't have to guess the intent. One of the bill's biggest champions, Senator Lindsey Graham, laid it out plain and simple. He said, and I'm quoting here, "This bill will allow President Trump to punish those countries who buy cheap Russian oil, fueling Putin's war machine." So yeah, the goal is pretty explicit. And listen, this isn't some far-off hypothetical. The pieces are moving, and they're moving fast. President Trump has apparently given it the green light in principle. It's being pushed by a major senator. It supposedly has support from both sides of the aisle. And here's the kicker. It could be up for a vote as soon as next week. This is happening right now.
Okay, so if the bill is the weapon, who's the target? Well, all signs are pointing overwhelmingly in one direction. Let's talk about how India found itself right in the crosshairs.
So here's the key piece of context. Along with China, India is one of the biggest buyers of Russian crude oil on the planet. Especially since the war in Ukraine started, they've been buying a ton of it, often at a discount. Now, this pressure isn't exactly new. We've seen a clear pattern of escalation. It began with a 25% tariff on Indian goods, then that got bumped up to 50%. And now, this new proposal wants to leap all the way to 500%. You can see the pressure is just getting cranked up step by step.
So what's India's take on all this? Well, their official line is pretty consistent. A government statement says their energy decisions are all about national interest and affordability. Basically, they're saying, hey, we've got a massive population and a growing economy, and we need affordable energy. It's that simple.
And this is where the whole situation gets a little weird. It brings up a huge inconsistency, an anomaly, you could say. Let's just call it the China question. So here's the question that everyone's asking. We know China is also buying massive amounts of Russian oil. So why does all this pressure, from the tariffs we already have to this new 500% threat, seem to be so laser-focused on India? Is it because the U.S. feels it has more leverage over India? It's a question that really hangs over this whole debate. And I mean, this slide just lays it out so clearly. It's a stark contrast. For India, you've got existing tariffs, and you're the main target of this new proposal. And for China, nothing so far. In fact, most analysts think they'll continue to be shielded. It's a pretty glaring difference in how two countries doing the same thing are being treated. And it's not just us noticing this. Trade expert Ajay Srivastava kind of says the quiet part out loud. He's quoted as saying that even if this bill passes, it would, in practice, target India alone, while China would remain beyond reach. So the thinking is that this isn't an oversight, it's by design. So what does this all mean in the real world? What are the actual consequences? Well, let's talk about the potential impact, which comes with a very, very big price tag. $120 billion. That's the value of India's annual exports to the United States. That's what's at stake. That's the entire trade relationship that's being put on the line here. And this chart really visualizes the threat, doesn't it? On one side, you have the current tariffs, which are already a big deal. On the other, that proposed 500% tariff. The jump is just massive. It's not a small adjustment, it's like hitting an economic brick wall. And the experts are not mincing words. A report from the GTRI think tank is completely blunt about it. They say a 500% tariff would, and I quote, effectively shut down India's goods and services exports to the United States. It wouldn't just make things more expensive, it would basically make them impossible to sell. Okay, let's zoom out for a minute and look at the big picture here. What does this situation tell us about the state of global trade today? We're going back to that trade expert, Ajay Srivastava, because his critique is so sharp. He says,
This is not a rules-based trading order. It is worse than law of jungle, as it is unevenly applied. And that last part is so key, unevenly applied. The argument is that it's not just that the rules are tough, it's that they're being applied to some but not others.
So let's just quickly recap the key points. 1. This bill gives the U.S. a huge new economic weapon. 2. That weapon seems to be aimed very selectively at India, even though China is doing a similar thing. And 3. The potential economic damage for India is absolutely massive, putting over $120 billion of trade at risk. And that really leaves us with one final, huge question to think about. When we see things like this, when geopolitics seem to be driving trade policy more and more, are we witnessing the end of the rules-based global order that's pretty much defined the world economy for decades? It's a big question, and one worth thinking about.